Hello, welcome to the session on for loop. For loop lets us repeat the actions, but we already have the while loop for performing repeated actions. So what is the need for a for loop? The while loop is not structured. It is not always possible to predict the number of times a while loop is going to run. Sometimes the while loop might run indefinitely forever. But consider the case of looping over numbers from 1 to 100, or the case of looping over characters in a string. In all these cases, the number of iterations in the loop are known. In these situations, we use for loops. By the end of this unit, you will be able to use the for construct to write loops. The syntax of a for loop is as follows. For is a keyword, and then we have the variable name, and then it is followed by the keyword in, and it is followed by the list on which we want to loop, or rather the variable on which we want to write the for loop. And then we have the colon and the corresponding block of code which says what should be done in every iteration. So let us write a for loop that prints the first 5 natural numbers. Our first job is to create a list that contains the first 5 natural numbers. We will now loop over these numbers and print them. So the syntax is as follows. For I in lst print I. As the statement reads, we are asking it to loop over lst, and every time each item is taken in the form of I. Inside the loop, all we are doing is printing the value. Now let us print the squares of the first 5 natural numbers. As usual, for I in lst, which means loop over lst, and every time the item is stored in the value or in the variable I. Inside the loop, we do now we square the number and then print it. There we go. And that is how we write a for loop on a list. Now consider the problem which we just solved, printing the squares. What if we need all the squares till 100? It's a very laborious process to type 100 numbers one by one to create a list, which is why we have the range function that does that job for us. The range function is used as follows. Range of any number gives a list of numbers till that number. Please note that range of 6 gives till 6, but 6 is not included, which means only from 0 till 5. Similarly, range of 12 gives from 0 to 11. But we need the list to start with 1 and go till 10. To do this, we can also give 2 arguments to the range, where the first argument is where to start and the second argument is, as usual, the stop value. And there we have a list of numbers from 1 to 10. Similarly, generates the list accordingly. Now what if we need a list that contains only even numbers, which means we need only 2, 4, 6, 8 and so on. That would be possible if we take this list range of 2, 15 and skip elements as we move. 2, we skip 3, go to 4, skip 5, go to 6 and so on. That is possible by giving a step argument, which is the third argument, to the range. The step is used as follows. Step by default is 1. So we start with the start value and it is incremented by the value given in step, which is by default 1. So we get 3 and we get 4 and we get 5 and so on till the stop value. But once we give a specific step value, it starts with 2, increments it by the given step value 2, we get 4 and so on till 14. So now generating all the odd numbers would become as easy as this. Let us try another example. Range of 3, 20 gives the list from 3 to 19. The step 3 says start with 3 and increment in 3's. So that is how we get 3, 6 until 18. As we can see, we can use the range function to generate a list of numbers as required. Please pause here and solve the following problem to get a better understanding of the for loop. I assume you have solved the problem before we proceed further. Now let us understand how the for loop works on strings. We shall define a string and write a for loop. As we can see, it loops over the string one character at a time. This brings us to the end of the unit. We have seen how to write a for loop. We have learned how to use the range function to generate a list of numbers as required. And finally, we have seen that for loop on a string iterates one character at a time. Thank you for watching the video.